Welcome to Jannat Learning's digital class. This video is for the Virtual University course Introduction to Computer Science CS 101. Module 221 MS Excel, Functions. We hope you will find this informative and helpful. Please subscribe to Jannat Learning if you haven't before. Your feedback will be highly appreciated. Imagine you have a calculator that can handle hundreds of calculations at once. That's what Excel functions are like. They are pre-built formulas that make working with data a breeze. Instead of manually adding, averaging, or searching for information, you can use functions to do the heavy lifting for you. Think of functions as shortcuts. Each function has a specific name and purpose, and they all follow a simple structure. You start by typing an equal sign, followed by the function name like sum, and then parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you tell Excel what data to work with. Learning even a few basic functions can dramatically speed up your work in Excel. In this video, we'll explore these essential functions, like sum, average, and lookup, and see how they can be used in everyday tasks. When you start typing a function name after you press equals, Excel will launch Intellisense, which will list all of the functions starting with the letters you type. When you find the one you want, press Tab, and Excel will automatically finish the function name and enter the opening parenthesis for you. It will also display the optional and required arguments. A relative cell reference in a formula, such as A1, is based on the relative position of the cell that contains the formula and the cell the reference refers to. If the position of the cell that contains the formula changes, the reference is changed. If you copy or fill the formula across rows or down columns, the reference automatically adjusts. By default, new formulas use relative references. For example, if you copy or fill a relative reference in cell B2 to cell B3, it automatically adjusts from equals A1 to equals A2. An absolute cell reference in a formula, such as $A$1, always refer to a cell in a specific location. If the position of the cell that contains the formula changes, the absolute reference remains the same. If you copy or fill the formula across rows or down columns, the absolute reference does not adjust. By default, new formulas use relative references, so you may need to switch them to absolute references. For example, if you copy or fill an absolute reference in cell B2 to cell B3, it stays the same in both cells, equals $A$1. A mixed reference has either an absolute column and relative row, or absolute row and relative column. An absolute column reference takes the form $A1, $B1, and so on. An absolute row reference takes the form A$1, B$1, and so on. If the position of the cell that contains the formula changes, the relative reference is changed, and the absolute reference does not change. If you copy or fill the formula across rows or down columns, the relative reference automatically adjusts, and the absolute reference does not adjust. For example, if you copy or fill a mixed reference from cell A2 to B3, it adjusts from equals $1 to equals $1. Now let's look at the anatomy of a few functions. The sum function is structured like this: equals sum, range D38 to D41, H range H. The function name is sum and range D38 to D41 is the first argument. It's almost always required. H range to H equals additional arguments, separated by commas. Learn about the basic Excel functions and formulas that you should know. Sum function, average function, if function, lookup function, match function, choose function, date function, days function, find function, index function. Conditional functions let you sum, average, count or get the minimum or maximum of a range based on a given condition or criteria you specify, such as sum of salary of employees whose job ID equals 16, or sum of salary employees whose of debt ID 5. The SUMIF function syntax has the following arguments: range, the range of cells that you want evaluated by criteria. Cells in each range must be numbers or names, arrays, or references that contain numbers. In this example, range is job ID column, that is G2 to G41. Criteria. The criteria in the form of a number, expression, a cell reference, text, or a function that defines which cells will be added. In this example, criteria is job ID equal to 16. And last, you want to sum the salary column, that is H2 to H41. In the next calculation, the criteria have been changed. That is, department ID is greater than 5. The remaining arguments are the same. Like range is J2 to J41, and criterial greater than 5, and the sum range is H2 to H41. The if function is one of the most popular functions in Excel, and it allows you to make logical comparisons between a value and what you expect. So an if statement can have two results. The first result is if your comparison is true, the second if your comparison is false. For example, if you want to check or analyze the salary of an employee. If the salary of an employee is greater than the average salary, then there will be a message more, else it will type the text less. For this example, you can calculate the average salary. Then use this cell reference in the if statement. When you put a cell reference of average salary, must make it absolute by adding $sign. Because average salary cell reference is fixed, whereas cell reference of salary is relative, because it change for every row. Have a look. Use match instead of one of the lookup functions when you need the position of an item in a range instead of the item itself. For example, you might use the match function to provide a value for the round number argument of the index function. The syntax of the match function is that match, lookup value, lookup array, match type. The match function syntax has the following arguments. Lookup value, the value that you want to match in lookup array. The lookup value argument can be a value, number, text, or logical value, or a cell reference to a number, text, or logical value. Lookup array. The range of cells being searched. Match type optional. The number -1, 0, or 1. The match type argument specifies how Excel matches lookup value with values in lookup array. The default value for this argument is 1. The exact match is 0, -1 is greater than or 1 is less than. Use VLOOKUP when you need to find things in a table or arrange by row. For example, look up the price of an automotive part by the part number, or find an employee name based on their employee ID. In its simplest form, the VLOOKUP function says, equals VLOOKUP, what you want to look up, where you want to look for it, the column number in the range containing the value to return an approximate or exact match indicated as true or false. Use the VLOOKUP function in Excel to quickly find information in a table, range, or large spreadsheet. For this example, we're looking up the job name of employee. Select a cell. Type $, VLOOKUP, left parenthesis and select the value to look up. Type a comma and select the range or table to look for the value. Type a comma and the number of the column where the lookup value is located. Type comma, false right parenthesis to find the exact value. Press enter. A pivot table is a powerful tool to calculate, summarize, and analyze data that lets you see comparisons, patterns, and trends in your data. Pivot tables work a little bit differently depending on what platform you are using to run Excel. Select the cell in the source data. Select Insert, then Pivot Table. Choose where to place the pivot table. Select OK. Add fields to the pivot table. Customize the pivot table. Thank you for attending the Jannat Learning Digital class. Our mission is to help you achieve academic success and unlock your potential. Our content includes study tips, exam preparation strategies, course overviews, and more. Join our community of motivated learners. Subscribe to Jannat Learning for regular updates and valuable insights. Goodbye.